Okay, so Allah Sheila and Bala Tshuva Nasa Shavala Tzad Shlechota Afpam. As far as the question whether Bal Tshuva becomes equal to a tzaddik who never sinned, Hineni Noisein as a Tshuva. This is my answer. Nachlakim, the Shleish Halakim. Bali Tshuva could be separated into three parts. Yeshnam Bali Tshuva Chas Shalom Tzaddikim Shlechota Mimeya. There are Bali Tshuva that do become, that they are equal to a tzaddik who never sinned. There's another group of Bali Tshuva that they're even higher than a greater level than these tzaddikim. And there are Bali Tshuva that are on a lower level than those tzaddikim who never sinned, even though they did tshuva. All right, so you got all the options. I will explain which Baal Tshuva fits into which category. The first group is Bali Tshuva that their Avera was that they didn't fill mitzvah says. The only mitzvah say that there's chorus is Korban Pesach, right? So I guess he means shloikimu mitzvah say is sort of like a definition of what a mitzvah say is that it's no chorus there. Okay, mitzvah tzitzis, lulav, sukkah. A mitzvah's time is similar, but it's also not very. You didn't do the mitzvah. When a person then does tshuva both in his heart and verbally, that on this that he was mevato these and from now on he does his best to fulfill them. They don't repeat this avera. Hashem forgives them. And they're the same on the same level, same category as tzaddikim who never were mavato these mitzvahs. Okay, so on the mitzvah safe, Tabera was on the level of a mitzvah safe. If you do proper tshuva, you're like someone who never did that avera. They're nasim. While Bali tshuva ke'ela nemar, these Bali tshuva it says hachuizer b'tshuva me'achet kilu echota afma. He doesn't really give us here a source on this. Where did he get this line from? Where did this line come from? Here. Let's see. Okay, he doesn't. He also doesn't give us a source. He says, Rav Matisyahu says, "Kikra be'arnu le'el." In Perek Rishon, we've explained Yesh Chiluk. He uses this theme. I see it keeps on popping up. Rav Matisyahu. Ben mitzvah say, ben mitzvah lo say, v'hu. There's a difference between a mitzvah say, an essential difference, I guess, and mitzvah lo say. That only in relation to a mitzvah lo say, you have both aspects of a chet. Hashamnu bagan. We keep bringing that up. Is the Shamnu concept that what affects you, you become nesham, you become empty, desolate, and Boganu, that you rebelled against Hashem. And he says in Losa says you always have those. You have those two possibilities. Who may be churban alatz, right? By sinning, by doing an avera, he means destruction on himself and on the world. Okay, maybe alatz, and he also affects himself. And on top of that, That's no shamlup. On top of that, he's has to ask that he was rebellious against Hashem. Was the kapsel with Dvorah. Vavar Ritzayin. Loi came to be to mitzvah says, but unlike so, when it comes to mitzvah shapi sheish from shumbagan, it's true. You didn't take the lulav, you didn't take esrog, so you've rebelled. You've done a rebellious act. Hashem was mitzvah to do it, and you did not do it. I will shamna einboy, but it doesn't. It's not. You know, it's a mitzvah say could give you kedusha, could lift you up, but if you don't do it, it didn't create destruction. Oh, you didn't build. So therefore, if your whole sin is just that you fell short in fulfilling a mitzvah, say, in brackets, he says, if there could be such a, he's fine everything, just didn't know mitzvah says. So what does he have to do? He has to do tshuva, that he was mavatal the mitzvah, and then try to make up, right, and fulfill those mitzvahs. He says an interesting thing on the bottom. He says, Gemara says in Chagiga, I think it's brought in Brachas also, Mu'uvas la yuchal litkain, on the pasuk in Kayelis, that if you're Mu'uvas, you can't correct it. That should be the Kriyash Mashal Shach. Like Kriyash Mashal Arvis, it should be to Tfilah Shachas, Tfilah Shar. So you see here that you can't correct it. He says, that's Hanad Avkabal Yosi Tshuva. That's if you didn't do Tshuva, Shekim Shabit Mitzvah. Since you're about that mitzvah, you come to the next word, you'll be lacking the level you could have reached with that mitzvah. I'm attacking a masha. This is very encouraging. It's not the simple shot you always learn, that I always learned when I learned this Gemara. You can't correct it. You blew it. Too late. You didn't say Krishma, you can't make it up. But he's saying that's only, you called Mu'ufa, so you call Litkain if you didn't do tshuva. But if you did tshuva, you can be Matata. Okay, so he says, back in the Sefer itself. Zochron Omer Aleihem Over Mitzvah say Shein Boy Koris Vasa Tshuva Mishnah Gemara and Yuma Ein Zos Misham Chamaychel. He gets forgiven. Nema Tshuva Eleiva Tshuva Aleichem. Right, so you did Tshuva, Hashem forgives you, and now you're fine. But that's, and in that case, so you're like a tzaddik who never did Davar because you were able to correct it. Now it's as if you didn't do Davar either. Those Bali Tshuva are now on a higher level than those tzaddikim. It includes Bali Tshuva who ever transgressed Averis Kalos, the Hainu al Mitzvahs Loisase, Shloi Chayav on Karis. That's what's called Kalos. The Mitzvahs are Loisase. That not there's no chorus there. Then you did a complete tshuva. The sum was someone is saying they have the fact that they transgressed, they did the error in front of them, they're always asking Hashem should forgive them. And they're embarrassed. Could they have done that? With the fear that they might be punished. Inside, they're broken. And it brings them, it's interesting, it brings them to be in a constant state of humility in front of Hashem. They are various. That's what he's saying. This is Interesting idea. These actual averas, it brings them to humility because they're broken, because they sin. They're living with that. It becomes a reality. We're humbled. We're humbled. We're embarrassed. We're humbled that we did the avera. You don't have that if you never did the avera. Right? Obviously, you have to work on hachno, and we had the whole shara chnir, right? But there's a certain, he sounds like he's saying it, there's a certain humbleness that you can only get by doing the avera and then coming to realization what you did. That's a humbling experience. And you live with it, he's saying. Tell me. And it brings them, it's a thing that causes them to fulfill their obligations more, I guess. And none of it causes, even when they do good actions, doesn't bring them to be arrogant, because they're living with that experience they went through, with that reality. And when they do a lot of good actions, they don't say, look how much I've done. They don't show off with them. They're careful not to stumble anymore in their lives. So these Bali Tshuva are on a higher level than the tzaddikim, who never transgress these averis or similar averis. Why? A tzaddik who's pure, he never sinned. We have no assurance that he's not going to become arrogant because of his good actions. He's set up, sort of. It's almost a setup to be arrogant because he's flying high. He does everything right. He never did an aver. They never did that. So it's almost a setup that they'll end up being miskar. And by doing that they might fall even to a lower madrega than the sinner, as it says, the farm in moyel hachet the Baal Tshuva. Sometimes the avera helps the Baal Tshuva yoyzamima shemayilus tzaddik kotzit kaiso more than what assists the tzaddik because of all the good things he does. Well, the farm in mazika tzidkus the tzaddik, and sometimes this righteousness of the tzaddik ends up boomerang. It's mazikim. More than all the damage done by the averis to the Baal Tshuva. When does that happen? When his tzidkus causes him doesn't cause him to turn to humility. Oh, excuse me. That is, his good actions causes him to turn his back on humility. Rather causes him to be full of arrogancy, with tzvius u'ba'avas hashevach, enjoying the praise. If you wouldn't have sinned, and be afraid that perhaps you'll stumble in something that's worse than an aver. So they asked him, what could be worse than aver? I'm not sure what tzvius. I mean, in modern Hebrew, it means not being. It's like echad b'pev, echad b'leiv. English here. Chapter 7, chapter 8. don't find it. B'chlal. Oh, this is the wrong one. This is Sharknia. Okay. Okay. In any case, so he said, I'm afraid when someone doesn't fall. Now, of course, if he falls, he doesn't do tshuva, so you're not going to say that it's good to do averos. Right? That's not good. But if someone did do tshuva, he did fall and did tshuva, it puts him into a whole new situation. He's no more so cocky, so arrogant. He knows he fell. He knows he broke the trust. Right? It creates a sense of humility that he lives with. That also will protect him from doing further averos also, right? Because he's on guard. But the one who never fell, who's a tzaddik that wasn't chayta, he doesn't have that protection or anything. He's in a danger. That's what this tzaddik, that's this talmidim. You're in danger of stumbling. It's a thing that's worse than oven, he says, and that's the baiva. Okay, the famous Chazal. He says that refers to this. Again, these to me, Rabbi Yosef, you most probably could have more input into this than me, but these are pshatim that we don't usually say. You don't usually say that pshat in the Gemara over there that the b'makom shebal tshuva imdim ain't tzadikim gvim yichayim lamoid. He's referring to this concept that the Baal Tshuva who fell, he's full of humility and he lives with that, and it's and while the tzaddik, but you're breaking up. Like that. Can't hear you.
Basically, the special shot's not like that. We always believe.
The Pashut shot's not like that. Pashut shot is that by doing tshuva, they're in a greater place. I don't know. Let's see what he says here. Is any filler here? In Yonim Elu Shemon Rabbeinu Kan, it says, this is what the Chovos haLevavos here talks about, that the Baal Tshuva, the guy we're talking about now, he did tshuva with all of its pratim, well, its tnoim. He keeps his haver in front of him, he doesn't forget, and he's always asking for mechila, he's embarrassed from Hashem, right? And he lives with a fear of punishment. The nishbura nafshay v'nichna v'shaflik him. These are levels of tshuva. The person who's doing tshuva, all these things are aspects of where he's at. Ukein Shemon Rabbeinu Yoina. He says, as Rabbeinu Yoina, Shari Tshuva in the first shar, Esther Mikre Tshuva, and Yoga and Daika, Busha, Hachno. These are part of the 20 Yikri Tshuva that Rabbeinu Yoina. Now Rabbeinu Yoina didn't specify. It's talking about someone who's only Yoivan Alosase, right? He's saying that this is just expansions of the tshuva process, that it brings me to humility, it brings me to bucha, it brings me to living yorichet, right? All these things, daiga. Rabbeinu Machadish kan she'ein tzarich l'tzonim ela every mitzvah shava alaveris loisas. Chovos is saying you don't need it if you just were oiva mitzvah says. But it's necessary for someone who's oiva mitzvah loisas. Ach loy b'mi shabita mitzvah say v'atam kanal m'shum v'averis loitasei. This is because you have to do a whole nother level. When you did a mitzvah, say you didn't touch the Hashem. The Avera didn't leave. In fact, you didn't do the mitzvah. He's saying it doesn't leave a mark. It's just that you don't have a madrega. You don't have whatever that mitzvah could have given you. So I don't need all of this in my tshuva process because all of this is things that help me erase the damage I did. And therefore, it's only applicable to los hasays. By los hasays, besides the rebellious pagano that you did, you have no shamlu by doing that. And for that, You need the yoga and the daiga and the busha and the hachno. Okay, now, the Chovos haLevavos, what I'm hearing, is saying it a little different. He's not saying it so much as part of the tshuva process that's going to cleanse my avera. He's saying, it sounds like he's saying it more just, this is the benefits of my tshuva process. I do this avera. And it really should apply even to mitzvah, say the way he's talking, even though it's true. Chovos haLevavos, when he said it here, he didn't say it in the first group, right? But this is sort of like the benefits. If I'm doing tshuva because I know I did this, so it does humble me, right? It does cause me to be embarrassed, to hard to face Hashem. But that should be true even if I was over on a mitzvah say. But the Meister of Ansel is right, because he's only saying it here. He didn't say it about the guy. Bir noira v'nifla sharabenu b'mayim chazal zeh shabal tshuva yeshel yisrael tzadik gomer. He says this. He calls it a bir noira v'nifla. On what Chazal said, you know, that b'malkum shabal tshuva imdin yeshel yisrael tzadik gomer shum satzadik hu b'sakona. To me, it's not that he's the Maisa. See, that's the thing. The way the Chazal is. At this point today, it doesn't mean about Chuvas on a higher level. It's just about Chuva has protections, while the tzaddik, Gomer, is in danger. So he's better in the fact that he's in a safer place. Because that's what he said. The Baal Tshuva is full of humility. The tzaddik, Gomer, is in a danger of becoming full of gaiva. It doesn't mean that the Baal Tshuva is on a higher level. He's just in a better place, he's saying. Shabal tshuva yeshel yisrael al tzadik gomer mishum tzadik hu b'sakona t'midus ula yisgoya. The tzadik gomer is in a constant danger that perhaps he'll be arrogant. Mashe'ein lochash about tshuva, which you don't have to worry about tshuva gomer. Shecheta oimin leneged Torah came magas shofo v'nifne. Right? I mean, the Kura, that's what he's saying here. When we say Nilma, Goido Isra Hagaiva, from here, yet we have a limit of the tremendous Isra of Gaiva. I mean, the Tzaddik had said his Talmidim, right? That it's worse. The Gaiva is worse than doing the Avera. And the seriousness of the hashchosa that happens to someone who's miskor. He says, we're not tzadikim gemurim, that we can't appreciate in the sign of being a tzaddik. And because of that, he's on a lower level of Baal Tshuva, who's not in a constant danger of being miskar. Now he brings on the bottom in a footnote, which is the normal understanding, I think, of this memra. He brings the Rambam, Perik Zayin Hilchos Tshuva, Halacha Daled, Mefayish Inyan Zeh Shekim Tabal Tshuva Tam Chet. Since about Tshuva already tasted Chet. Nisyoni Yoyse Kosher. So his challenge now, it's the opposite. His Nisayon is much greater because he's tasted it. And the Chet has a good taste. And therefore, when he overcomes his Yetzer, then his reward is greater than the Tzaddik Gomer who never tasted the Chet, and therefore his Nisayon is less so. Says the Rambam. The Baal Tshuva shouldn't feel that he's far from the levels of the tzaddik because of the averis he did. It's not true. He's beloved, desired by Hashem, as if he never sinned. Not only that, his reward is a lot. It's tremendous. Because he already tasted the avera of a period from a Kavash Yitzray, and he left it. And he overcame his Yetzer. Also, the time Malas Elu Shleichotim Elam, Nation Koshim Yitzim Yesaman. So the Rambam holds at the level of Baal Tshuva is greater because he has a greater battle. This is the opposite of what Uri Zarzal said. Uri Zarzal said when someone was being interviewed and someone said that your reward is most much greater than those people in Bnei Brak because you were there and they never. He said just the opposite. He says I've been there and I know that there's nothing there. It's empty. I don't get so much scar. They live with the imagination that over there it's great, right? And they have to overcome it. But on the other hand, once you tasted the chet, it's fun, and it's a much bigger nisayin. You gotta uproot it. That's how the Rambam understands it, but the haLevavos understanding it totally different. Okay, we'll leave haChelek HaShlishi for tomorrow. B'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. Thank you.